Wendell Skar. I'm a XR technology lead as well as a systems analyst at Starbucks. And today we're going to be talking about Starbucks' VR journey and leveraging virtual reality as a means to drive efficiency, promote technical innovation. We'll also talk about how we navigated VR from the hype and cool tech that everyone's looking at to an accepted tool in our design and construction workflows. And also including how we're gaining adoption and how we're moving forward today. So a little bit about me. I'm a 20-year technologist, 18 years in finance and investment technology, with the last 2 years in retail. Played a lot of different roles, primarily as a systems analyst and a product manager. Today, currently, I'm the XR tech lead and systems analyst for store development technology. Now the team that I support is the store development team that creates stores from concept, design, construction, and facilities management. So we're going to talk about how does VR fit into Starbucks. Because of our scale, we're so large, a lot of different areas that can be a target for VR. One of the things that is close to us is the store development team, and what drives the growth of Starbucks is our stores. So we identified store dev as a primary area just because the design and construction workflows were evident, tons of 3D content that was available, as well as general AEC acceptance of VR as a communication tool. Three main areas that we wanted to focus on with VR to address is addressing our design process inefficiencies. For example, the design process is fairly traditional and old school, so we take a lot of rendered images, print them out, put them on a board, redline them, have a meeting, go back, make changes, do it again, iterate and iterate. So what we wanted to do is see if VR could address those issues. We knew there was a better way to communicate design intent as well. One of the things that's crucial to design is being able to communicate what's in their head. We also wanted to modernize the process. So we want to augment the traditional methods that we have of designing a store with new tools and techniques. And being in the technology team, that's our main goal. So one of the things, after identifying that area to focus on, we need to understand what the best way to evaluate VR and how it applies to the business. So how we started was really more of a grassroots effort. You don't start off and get $1 million budget right away. So we went to our leadership, and thankfully they supported us. My director and my VP are very, they want innovation in technology and at Starbucks. So we had their support early on, which led to us researching tools and technologies and techniques, looking at industry information. And we also purchased some hardware and software, which allowed us to gain valuable experience with VR workflows and how we potentially could use them. We knew that we did not have the domain level expertise, so we knew we had to leverage relationships with people with deep VR experience. And lastly, we needed to develop use cases. We needed to identify business problems to solve. We can't bring in cool technology without being able to apply it. And so we worked with our business to understand their workflows better so we could apply the technology. So practical adoption. So the first thing we did is we partnered with Autodesk to see what the potential of VR is. So what we were asking for is an experience that included photorealism, custom design options, materiality, and interactivity. We also wanted to ensure that we used products that were available to us via our relationships, such as Revit Live and Stingray. And we actually have a video of that experience, and we're going to cue that up here. And this is a store, a Starbucks store in the Philippines, and what you're viewing right now is the Revit Live walkthrough. And you can see that it's been augmented and additional materiality, light baking, et cetera, has been added. And one of the first things we realize is that walking through that space, letting our designers walk through that space, they can check out the spatial features of the space, understand what it's like to be behind the bar, also doing some lighting adjustments, and really looking at how artificial lighting works in the space. Here is the actual VR experience. And so this is just general walkthrough of the VR experience. And again, this is still Revit Live. And again, behind our espresso maker and our bar. An example of interactivity, picking up objects, those kinds of things. And lastly, design optioning and furniture grouping. And that's our steamy cup of coffee. All right. So what that allowed us to do is showcase VR. So what we were trying to do is garner excitement, right? But we have to get beyond the excitement. But in order to get to a point where we could implement VR practically, we had to sell it. And so what we did is we actually had a room all day, a large room, and we invited every leader that we could in design as well as our executive leadership. So pretty amazing to see leaders actually come in, put on the HMD, and then walk through the space and say, wow. And one of the first comments from our CEO was that he wanted this experience and he wanted all designers to leverage that globally. Well, that's part of what we're trying to do. So shortly after, as soon as we did that showcase of VR, we established a proof of concept. Proof of concept was really about working with our design teams, getting the equipment and the HMD and the workflows into their teams so they could leverage that. And what we did was further refine our use cases, understood what problems we're trying to solve, and we also tried to build a business case that was that really addressed the need. And so use cases. So we actually started off with about 15 use cases. And so we knew we couldn't digest it all, especially in a proof of concept. So we narrowed it down to 3 high-value use cases. First, design presentation. Design presentation specifically to leadership so they could view the stores virtually, so they could see that detail in lighting and materials that they wouldn't be able to see on a 2D or a print. As well as design reviews. So design reviews are really the day-to-day when designers come together and they look at the design intent and they iterate. What we're finding is that they can iterate faster because now it's not up to their imagination. They can actually virtually see everything. And cross-functional reviews. At Starbucks, we have many design teams. In fact, we have a concepts team. We have a team that focuses on our licensed stores. We have teams that focus on just furniture. So what this allows them to do is actually see those things more efficiently and understand the intent those various teams are trying to tell. Okay, so that all led up to a business case, and it's really more of a mission statement with goals. And so our business case to digitize the store design process in a meaningful way, bringing increased visibility, interaction, and connection to our store designs by leveraging VR. With the goal of decreasing time to market, we want to get these stores designs done quicker, faster, so we can get to construction. We also want to decrease design changes. Because we can iterate faster and be more efficient in our design process, we should also be able to see issues before they arise. And one of the biggest things we heard from designers is increased confidence. Confidence is such a huge thing when it comes to the design world. And so understanding and gaining confidence through the process by using VR was a crucial item. Okay, so rollout. After a year of POC and piloting and getting our VR equipment in our designers' hands, we're now official program. And so we're fortunate that now VR is recognized as a legitimate visualization tool. Aside from rendering and some of the traditional methods, VR is now an accepted tool. We're also working on strategy and governance around VR, and that includes how best to use the software, what hardware, what GPUs, what are we looking for? Do we need a gaming system? Do we need a business class system that can run AutoCAD? Those are the questions that we have to answer, and we also have to understand how do we govern and manage it globally, because we have design studios all throughout the world, and so how do we best manage that? We're also exploring additional use cases. So remember that list of 15 that I was talking about where we narrowed it to 3? We still have additional use cases to continue to prove out and understand how they would impact the business. So we're also looking at other areas. So things like operations, obvious areas, operations. So the operations teams can look at the workflow, understand queuing and simulation. Those are the things that we want to look at. We're also looking at how does it work in retail. So when we talk about VR, it's kind of a general term that we use for all of the XR-related technologies. So how do we use AR and MR in retail, marketing, those kinds of things, gamification of how we apply discounts to certain customers. I mean, there's a lot of things, and we're just scratching the surface. So now that we think we made it big, here's a couple examples of us thinking we made it big so far. So we actually, our CEO, he was at the GeekWire Summit in Seattle, and he had a great shout out for us on Twitter there, how we're using VR in our design. Now, we haven't rolled out, we haven't quote unquote made it or saturated or matured yet, but this is an example of the kind of support we're getting at the highest levels, just with my little team. My team's right there. And another shout out, so this is our CTO, Jerry Martin Flinkinger, and she was recently at the Gartner Symposium in Florida, which is, if you guys are IT, if you know technology, is probably one of the biggest IT shows and conferences around. She was talking about innovation, and one of the things she talks about is virtual reality, and that is really a confidence boost for us and our team and what we're trying to do. But have we made it? Absolutely not. We're just scratching the surface. There's so much left to do, especially in an industry that's changing daily. So key takeaways I want to leave you guys with. These are learnings from what we went through over the last year. Understand what problems you're trying to solve. Narrow the scope to a few use cases. You can't boil the ocean, especially when you want to prove a technology out. Establish leadership support early. Crucial to have that leadership support in the beginning, so when you get further along, they're there along your journey, and they're there to support you. And probably one of the most important things is sell. We took every opportunity to show VR. So I would drop everything if I had a request. Someone IMs me, hey, are you available? Can you do this? What did I do? I got my cart and my hardware, and I went up there, and I said, yes, go. And that paid dividends, being able to do that.